Hi, I'm gonna talk about a daily experience that I had like a few days ago. As you probably know, I'm on a sabbatical and I spend most of my time alone at home. I don't go anywhere. I just spend all my time with God or I just create stuff. One of the things I'm working on is my dialogues from my diary when I was like talking with Jesus about stuff, and I'm editing it to publish it. Of course, in Hungarian. Sorry. And I have a lot of fun doing it because I have to like really experience things as I edit it, and sometimes Holy Spirit gives me like a new impression, a new vision, and then I add to it. But on the basis, it's quite boring. Like it's looking for editing failures and grammar mistakes. So it should be very boring, but it isn't because it's like if you want to read a very personalized, powerful prophecy, write down what Jesus directly says to you, and then you have a book of that. And it's so touching what I wrote like 6 years ago, and I read it and I'm like, oh, this is the most inspired text I ever read. And of course it's not, but for me it is because it was something God told me. Um, Never mind, I don't want to talk about this, but I was doing that the whole day, and there were words that were really like talking to me, and I was happy about it, but I got tired, and I really felt like rewatching The Shack, the movie. I really love the book. The book is crazy deep. The movie is good, but the book is like 100 times deeper. But the movie is like, it's not like, oh, it's way worse than the book. It's a good movie. But there is an extra depth to the book. And I read the book many times, and it was mostly a theological thing for me. In a good sense, like, God is better than I thought. There's no stricter father behind Jesus' back. He was always accepting, he was always gracious, and all that. So it was more about rewriting my theology. And I loved the storyline and the fantasy aspect and all that. But I could never like identify with the trauma part. Like I never had like a big trauma in my life. Like it's not like I can like, oh, I have that big sadness. I don't have that. I used to be very depressed, but it was like for not exceptional trauma. It just happened. Um, so I was like, it was more a theological thing for me to study the book. And this time I felt like, oh, I must watch it. And at a point when Mac arrived in the new shack where everything was like very cozy and the Trinity was waiting for him, the sense of home just hit me. And I want to congratulate to the set designer or like anyone who made the styling of the house, because it has no particular style. It just has everything that makes you feel cozy and makes the scene look like home. So everything that looks like home is there. It's just, I think it's crazy good. I used to like study styling and stuff like that. So sometimes I'm interested in things like that. So yeah, at the moment like your Mac arrived, I was like, oh, home. And then I was like a bit sad, like I never had that home. And I have a good relationship with my parents. They were Christians, they loved me, nothing traumatic about my childhood. And I felt like, oh, I never had that home. And And after that, I was like, I had to like talk about things in my childhood after every sentence that was said in the film. So I was like, one sentence or two, and then I had to sob for a few minutes. And that's how I was watching the show. And it wasn't about the storyline. It is touching in itself, but it was only about the sense of home in the movie. How Trinity was a family for Mac, and the guy just started to remind me of situations when I felt alone, and he brought up like memories and 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 feelings that have no memories attached to it, but things that say that I'm lonely and I don't deserve to be cared for, and I don't deserve to have company. And and after all, at each of every memories that came to my mind, he just said that you have never been alone. You will never be alone. You deserve that perfect family. You deserve to be loved. You will have that kind of home. You have that kind of home with us. We are that kind of family. You are adopted. And there was a time um in my in my life now, it just happened a few like weeks or months ago, like there were like people like discussing like who I should marry, because people like always have ideas of who I should marry, because I have these videos, and yeah, people like have like kind of like ideas of me, which can be like cruel and sad. But as a reaction, I felt like, oh, I don't know whether I want to be married. I just want to be adopted into a normal family. and and then I was like, oops, I just said, did I just say it? And I really felt like, okay, maybe I have like some pains connected to family. And but it wasn't like a big traumatic thing. It wasn't like, oh, my relationship with my family is the only greatest trauma of my life that I have to work through. I was, as I said, I have good relationship with them. They welcome me, they support me. They don't always understand me, but they are not opposing me in any way. So it's nothing sad about it, actually. But I have like a lot of memories when they weren't really there, because they were very poor. They had to work a lot, and they have to like, they had a lot of stuff to deal with. They had terrible childhood themselves, like very terrible childhood. And I think the most they could do for me is to like not transfer all of the pain they received, but accidentally they did transfer 1 or 2% of it. And overall, I'm very thankful for them that they didn't give like the whole package of pain right into my lap that they received. But and because I always knew that, I felt like I should never think that I deserve that kind of perfect love. Because if I think that I deserve that whole attention, perfect acceptance, then I'm gonna be angry at them, and that they weren't there all the time. And I don't want to be angry. I'm a good Christian girl. I don't want to have like any bad feelings for them, and I don't have to like, I don't want to like have unrealistic expectations towards them. I don't want to like destroy my good relationship and love between us just because I think I deserved something better than they have provided. And as I was watching this movie, I felt like God was telling me, like, you do deserve that kind of love you are longing for because you have been created for that. And it's okay for you to say that you didn't get it and you did deserve it and you miss it. And I was like, no, I don't want to be offended. I don't want to have any offense in my heart towards my parents. And he said, it's okay. Like, I'm gonna deal with that as well. But just first realize that you do deserve that kind of perfect love and acceptance and the sense of company. And because sometimes we start to believe that we didn't get that perfect love because we don't deserve it, either because we did something that wrong that makes us not deserving it, or it can be even worse when we start to believe that we are essentially worse than someone who deserves it. Like, we are not the level of a human being who deserves that kind of love and family. And I realized that the enemy strategically built this lie into me that I deserve to be lonely and I didn't deserve that kind of love. So much so that by the time I was at kindergarten, I thought I cannot play with other kids because I don't deserve being with them, which is kind of insane. And you would think that there was some big trauma behind it, but there wasn't. As I said in the Way Out series, how bounded you are by a lie is not dependent on the trauma or the extension of the trauma. Like, you can believe a lie while you are brushing your teeth and you can destroy your life with that lie. And there are some people who experience like terrible childhoods and multiple rapes and they are doing fine. Of course, they needed healing and all that, but you have Joyce Meyer and Christine Kane. They are doing great in life, but they had like terrible backgrounds. So yeah, the hurt and twistedness you experience in your soul is not directly related to traumas. That's what I say. Of course, it's easier to believe lies when you experience terrible things, but it's not necessary for the enemy to give you a great trauma to make you believe a lie. So I thought, like, my parents didn't do anything that wrong to me. Like, why do I feel this lack of love? I don't want to feel like they didn't love enough, that they weren't good parents. And God said, like, yeah, you can be angry, but I don't want to be angry. Yeah, you can be angry. But anger is the wrong thing. No, it's not. And of course, it's not the solution. Like, it's not like, I'm going to be angry at them and that's going to solve it. No, it doesn't solve anything. But sometimes it's the next step. It's the next line. It's the next... knot you can untie in this complex bondage. Okay, here I have this, like, okay, I feel it was unfair that they didn't love me that much and they didn't care for me that much, but okay, what's the next thing? And the next thing was like, yes, okay, thank you, and The next thing is that no one is to blame. When you allow yourself to realize that you weren't treated the way you wanted to be treated, the way you desired to be treated, the way you had been created to be treated, the first thing is like, who is to blame? Is it me or is it others? We have that mindset. Like we need to decide like who is to blame for that. And the key of this whole thing is that no one is to blame. They were doing the best they could. Like, yes, they were doing the best they could. Actually, most of the people are not intentionally mean and destructive. If you have recognized it, there are a few that are twisted enough to be intentionally harmful and abusive, but most of them, they do the best they could. And it doesn't make their behavior right if they treat you bad, but it also doesn't make them accusable. Like, yeah, I'm not to blame, my parents are not to blame, it was still unfair what has happened to me. And I still deserve that love. And God is like, yes, you can put your standards very high because I am here to give you that kind of love. We are here as Trinity to adopt you into that perfect family. And of course, you shouldn't like have those high standards for people. Like, okay, you should love me just as much as the Trinity does, or else you are a bad parent or a bad partner. But you can have those high standards and put it on God because He's able to like hit those high standards. And I want to be loved that much. I want to have that much of perfect company. And God is like, here you are. Here is our perfect family. You are adopted. Welcome home. Yeah. So one by one, at every memory I had, God just started to explain to me that why I wasn't alone in that situation, and why I didn't deserve to be alone, and why I will never be alone, and why I will always have company, and I will always be in a family, and then I will always be loved, and all that. And if I continue, I'm gonna cry. Yeah. And I was like sobbing. Like, I'm not really much into deliverance, but it was that kind of manifestation. Like my whole body became like stiff, and it felt like something is resisting this love in me. And I had like harsh like physical manifestations when it was going on, and then I was sobbing, and it was a good kind of cry. I knew God was taking care of me, but it was still like strange that I felt like it is physically happening, that this pain is leaving my body. I won't have a theology of that, it's just happened. So I don't say that you should have same kind of experience to be healed or anything like that. I just share this as a testimony and be encouraged by it. God can do anything any way He wants to, so don't put any pressure on yourself. It's just a story that God can even do it this way if He wants to. And we also don't know how to decide what we need healing from. Like, it wasn't the main issue I had in my soul by the time this happened. I didn't have like much hurt in my heart towards my parents. God still was like, okay, I want to deal with that. And there are people like who have this big trauma in their lives and they want to get healed badly of that trauma, and they are bounded by thousands and thousands of lies that they never allow God to deal with. And maybe this would be the way to some bigger issues in their lives. So just allow God to be God and do what He thinks is needed in your soul. I'm not really obsessed with emotional healing or deliverance. It's not even the second most important thing for me. I don't really care about these issues. I just spend time with God. But when it comes to the surface, these hurts and things, I let God deal with it. And this is what has happened. Yes, there were a lot of situations in my childhood when I was like very much alone, because yeah, my parents had a lot to do. We were very poor and they tried to like manage life, and I can't say that it's wrong that they were like working and taking care of the household, and why did they abandon me for those like things. It is most logical, looking back, that they were like taking care of all those things. They could have done better for sure, paying still more attention to me, but they couldn't have done much better, I think. And here's the deal: even if you had the best family, it is dramatically worse than God's design for your life. I'm not saying you need healing, you are broken. I don't want to talk you into bondage. All I'm saying is that maybe after having the perfect childhood, you can have this sense of emptiness in your soul that I want to be loved better, and it's rightful for you to feel that. Not to blame yourself or blame others, but it's rightful to realize that I want that kind of love and I need it. And the Holy Spirit is there to like, okay, we are your family and we want to love you the way you deserve to be loved, based on who you really are, based on how valuable you actually are, based on what you are created for. Yeah. And every time God said you are not alone. You weren't alone in that time, and you weren't alone in that time. I was like sobbing so hard. I was sobbing the whole night. It was a long, long movie because I had to stop it all the time to have time to sob. And I felt kind of relieved afterwards, but not completely relieved. Actually, I felt like dizzy. I felt like some change was taking place, like physically in my head. Maybe some brain scientists could like explain it, how this works, but I could literally feel that something is changing in my head. Yeah. So maybe there are some physical aspects to letting go of certain lies. Yeah. So be adopted by the Trinity. God bless you.